Back of the class.
Are you hosting the meeting Thursday?
It's going to be fun. Bring your camera. Yes, I'll be
For the roll call. Oh, that's that. Sure, we can do that. There's the roll call right now. We're on a lot of time.
Brizalone. Here. Dollinger. Here. Fritz. Mayor. Moran. Parker. Here. Rice. Here. Winfrey. Here. Chumanello.
Here.
You have a quorum. We also have Mr. Lucis and Mr. Brooks.
Great, thank you. Mr. President, would you lead us in
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes. July 10th. Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by voice vote of aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have 3 items under old business. The first is update on courthouse delivery team, White, Gilbane, and Farnsworth. Looking nice out there. Getting big.
Yeah, you don't have to look for it anymore.
No, you don't.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You should have in front of you the updated, but I'll go through it. As far as safety, we have had 215 days without a lost time or recordable incident, 66,000 safe man-hours on the site, and 404 personnel have been through our orientation for the site personnel. Our schedule still remains for the substantial completion, which is 9/15/2000. Just to give you an overall product status through yesterday, Martin Cement has completed the slabs in the basement and poured the second floor east deck, and they're currently going to be pouring the west deck tomorrow and then Thursday to complete the agency wing, and then they're going to bounce up to the third floor agency wing and pour that the following week. As far as their foundation work in the dock area, most of all of that is complete. We started to put up our man and material hoist. You can see that if you drive by on the south side. Our MEP trades such as Block, XL, C. Erickson Plumbing, MEP Mechanical have put in all of their roughing work on the second floor. So that work is completed. They're starting to work on the third floor next week. Steel erection, we put the large luffing jib on at the end of last week, and now we're installing levels 6 and 7 on the east side, and by next week we'll be moving over to the west side of the tower. And also coming up, just so you know, in the future, we'll be dropping in our first escalator, which is going to be on August 18. The shear walls and the elevator core will get completed by the end of the month. So then we'll start taking down the elevator core formwork. We're going to be working a double shift when we do that, mainly to keep the steel erection going. So we'll work from 6 to 12 with the steel erectors, and then they'll all fall back to detailing, and then from 1 o'clock to 7 o'clock we'll start taking down the core, the elevator core. It'll take about 2 weeks to get down all of the formwork. Also, what has started is the backfill and finishing up the waterproofing around the foundations. So we're moving moving ahead, we're going to start getting into more of a rhythm now with flooring of the floors. We need to really get the second and third floor agency wings ready for the escalator. And then from there, we'll start jumping back from the east to the west sides of the tower on a regular basis. So we should, we're still on schedule with everything. We're not really ahead of schedule, but we're actually maintaining the schedule.
Max height is still scheduled for October.
Yes. Yeah. We'll top out at most likely the end of October.
End of October.
Okay, as far as the project budget goes, we're on budget. As far as the architectural and commissioning goes, White and Farms Group continue to work on shop drawing reviews. Glazing shops are the main focus that we're going through right now. And then White continues to answer any RFIs that are in. We did do a test on the mock-up. We passed one part of it, which was a pull test. We did not pass. We're kind of investigating that right now with the specifications and with the installer to make sure it was installed properly, and then try to figure out where we go from there. But I would anticipate that sometime in September you'll be able to see the glazing mock-up and the exterior wall. That is on the south side of our trailer.
Great. Does anybody have any questions?
All right, just kind of continuing on with the commissioning side. Like Gilbane's update said, you know, we're continuing to do things behind the scenes here with reviews, reviewing RFIs, the remaining submittals. We witnessed and completed the on-site envelope mock-up, which David mentioned, you know, included air infiltration and adhesion strength of air and vapor barrier. So it's kind of important to make sure that we're testing that air vapor barrier, making sure that that installation looks good before we go ahead, you know, with the rest of the facility. We started some site observations to inspect installations in progress, which would include looking at waterproofing, the underslab vapor barrier. Obviously, before slabs are poured, we want to make sure we're out there and looking at that, and then also the radiant piping. So we're trying to hit, commissioning's trying to hit some of those first installation reviews, you know, as things get installed the first time, to make sure that, you know, there aren't any issues with it. Just try to save everyone time. You know, if we do see an issue, we can work it out on site. So we've been having a more presence on site, and then we've been working with Gilbane to finalize our quality and commissioning plan for construction. That's pretty much it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Yep.
Jason?
Yeah, and our role continues to be focused on shop drawing and submittal review as we track forward, and then regular site visits as well. I think as more activity, even more activities happening out there, especially when we start getting into things like layout for floor layouts and that kind of thing, we're probably going to have some of our folks on site a little bit more, just to help support the functions going on out there. I mean, as you all know, it's a pretty complicated building, so I think as we get into more and more trades and more activities, just being able to return that information quickly is going to be important to keep on track. But everything's going well from our side.
Great. Any questions for Jason from Mike? All right, thank you very much for being here.
Okay, one last thing.
Yes.
As far, I do have the people here for the solar panel. I don't know if you want to do that now or wait till it's down on the list.
We can do it now. That's not a problem.
Like,
If the committee doesn't have any disagreement, we can move it up. Hearing none, let's move it up. So we got a discussion on solar panels for the Will County Courthouse.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Tim Montague with Continental Electrical. We're a large solar installer here in Illinois. And we are working with Gilbane and Block Electric on a rooftop solar array for the new courthouse. There's the mock-up of the building, which you're all familiar with. We're talking about an 87 kW array, and it will be located on the tower roofs. There's a couple of different levels, as you can see there. but it's on the high-rise portion of the building, which is a little unusual, but the engineering all worked out, and then there's a bird's eye view just looking down. The black stripes there in the schematic are what will be solar modules or solar panels.
Why is it a little unusual?
So when you go up, the wind gets stronger. And so this is going to be a ballasted solar array. It's weighed down with ballast blocks. And so we just don't see it on high-rise that often. But it is all checked out, and it's going to get built. So we're excited to do this project. And the way this plays out and why this is important for the county is that solar returns on the investment. So you are buying some infrastructure, right? It becomes a permanent part of the building. These are solar panels that are going to produce energy for 25 years. They're going to offset the facility's electric load by some percentage, perhaps 5% on a large facility like this. And the net result is that you'll be saving money after 5 years. You'll be cash positive on the project, and then the rest is gravy. So you're going to generate about $30,000 worth of power per year with this solar array, and then you're collecting on that for the life of the system. And just so you know, we are currently constructing the largest rooftop solar array in the Midwest at Maggot Glove in Romeoville. So that's right here in Will County. That's a 3.5 megawatt project. And then you're all familiar. Oh, there's another shot of that. We had a tour just recently. So obviously this is a much bigger project. But and then IKEA, the distribution center in Joliet, is a project that we constructed as well. So you're in good hands. That's just a little product sheet about shows the ballast blocks that keep the solar modules weighed down on the rooftop. And that's it. Any questions?
So, how did this change, Sam? How did this change from your numbers? You were at 7% of the building with a 20-year payout.
Well, I don't know the numbers that Tim used, and I don't know what's been adjusted since we spoke last. I haven't been given updated construction costs to redo my analysis that I shared with you all. I think that we determined that it would be, Jason, what's about 3% of the cost would be offset for electric. I don't know, Tim, if you want to speak to what numbers you were
Yeah, I
using.
don't have any hard numbers on what the load of the building is.
So that's your
gonna be.
industry average of what the return on investment looks like for the projects you do then?
Yes, I'm just really shooting from the hip on these numbers because I don't have hard numbers on.
We need to get some real numbers, because the number you had given us was 7% of the building energy, and then we figured out it'd be about 20 years for a payback on that construction. So we can't use industry standards. We need to get what the real numbers are.
You're not planning to do that?
No, that was factored into everything. Originally, I was modeling off a 75 kW system, so that's a little bit different
Sure.
than 87 kW. It's not a huge difference, but it's somewhat different.
Yeah.
I included the cost of the upgraded steel in my projection. I included a total cost analysis because we did have to pay to upgrade the structural integrity of the roof to support the solar. So that was all factored into mine. If I took that out, of course, the number would be lower, and if you'd like me to do it without the steel, I can.
We made it up, Mike.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought that this committee made a determination to put the steel in regardless if the solar went in or not.
Right.
You know, so that's the cost of the building. You know, because determination of at some future date.
Had the potential whether the system was.
Right, whatever we're gonna do up on the roof, we wanted it beefed up. So we would have done that whether the solar went in or not. So I wouldn't include that personally.
I can rerun it without
Yeah, I'd like to get your.
Then when you run it to an 87 kW system.
Yeah,
it's
run it to an 87, I'll get updated numbers from Gilbane and make sure we're both on the same page with anything that's changed since then.
Okay.
And I can have that for you at the next meeting if you would like.
And when you did that, were you also projecting out potential increases in cost?
In electric costs?
Yeah.
I projected based on what we just procured our electric rates at, because that will be included, the new courthouse will be included at that rate. And that's part of the reason the return wasn't as fast as we thought it may be, because the rate we got really was unparalleled for electric, which is great. It just,
How many years was that, 10?
for the procurement is 3 years, but we'll, if it's the desire of the county board, we will continue to procure so long as it's financially beneficial.
Right, right.
But you don't know when it'll be in 3 years.
I don't know what it'll be in 3 years. It's an extremely volatile market, which is why they don't advise that you procure out longer than 3 years.
And another question too.
Go ahead.
Is, so we were talking about, because they're high, the ballast that we have to put on there. And you showed the Romeo bill one. Is our ballast going to have to be more intense because it's higher up than the Romeo bill facility that you're doing?
And to be clear, I've not reviewed the ballast plan myself, but indeed, the ballasting will be per square foot a little heavier on a high rise than on a low rise. And that would be the case, yes.
And that's been accounted for.
That White's already accounted
Yeah,
for
that's
that.
been accounted for. Yes, that's why we beefed up the structure.
Okay.
And just for a point of clarification too, the solar array will also be on the lower roof of the Sally Port as well, not only on the tower itself, but down low, 18 feet off the
I
ground.
thought we
on
weren't
the
doing
south
that
element.
because we weren't going to,
On the Sally Port, yes, but not on the lower portion of the,
It'll be on the south side of the building, but not on the north side where we have the green roofs.
right, I understand that, but I thought we weren't doing the separate because we would have to beef that up too.
That's already been beefed.
And then the
But
other,
that's where the additional, that's where the additional.
that's where some of the additional,
KW's coming from.
The Sally is at the bottom of this drawing, I believe, right? Down here.
yes, at the very south, and by Washington Street, right above, right.
Yeah.
That's the 7.
So that's on the second floor,
18 feet,
18 feet.
right.
18 feet. So that theoretically could be affected if we decided to do something with the property behind it.
I lost you.
What if we built something on the property behind it?
To the south,
Yeah.
if you built a big tower to the south, of course, it would shade that array.
How short a tower could you theoretically build if you built something? That's 18 feet. and
You wouldn't want it to be
2 stories.
more than maybe 20 feet taller than the array.
More than 20 feet tall.
taller than the array, so 4-story, 3-story.
Well, there's somebody. Yeah, I'm just saying, if it shades it, we don't get anything out of it.
Well, it would be worse if it was directly west, right? I mean, so south.
Directly south is the worst.
It is the worst.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to shade with top of it. At least not our lifetime. But 2 foot, could, or something.
It's a good thought to have. You want to plan for that and try not to shade the array.
What percentage of the array is that, Sally?
25% maybe.
We run numbers with and without.
Yeah, so, Dan, can you?
And then the only other point that I wanted to make is the county had asked the project team to evaluate the window washing system and its impact or potential impact that it might have on the array. So we got to take that into consideration as well, and we're looking into it. So we do not think, at this time, we don't think there's going to be a problem.
No.
So you think we'll have the information back at the next meeting?
Guy drops a bucket, nothing's going to happen.
Actually, on that side, partially on that side, it is a stage. On the north side, it's actually Bozeman's ladders that they would be using. So we just have to make sure that we have enough area to drop the stage.
Right. Okay. So we can keep that on the agenda for next month, we'll have an update on that. Any other questions? All right, thank you
So
very much.
just to let everybody know how we're approaching this, we're buying all the infrastructure now, and then the solar arrays will be bought further down the line, just in case technology changes, they get better or whatever. They will be purchased in probably 2020.
Okay.
Okay?
Probably will get better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the discussion of the animal control facility in the EMA building.
Get in her email.
Joel?
Thank you.
All right. Quick update on both these projects. Currently for the animal control, we completed the construction documents of 100%, and we are sending that for permit review as of yesterday. And so we also, for the EMA, that is planned to be completed for 100% by the end of the last day of this month. August.
We're still going to hit our deadlines for bid.
So then we can then, proceeding with that is getting Harvard and BOA to finalize their contract and get their proposal to us, and we'll review that and then approve that and then put that onto the street for bids.
Any questions? The site work? Scott, pretty soon. Okay, that's on nature.
You know, particular to the actual site, the soil has been removed, by the way. So, and then we can utilize that initial. We can talk with Harvard to put on the street that sewer line early before the other packages. We'll probably just do one package for all the trades for both buildings.
Absolutely.
But that sewer line we can then.
That property is very confined, it's very tight, I think that's obviously going to be the best bang for our buck we can develop together. Correct. Are there any other questions? Jason, you have anything to add to that?
No, the only thing I was going to say is, you know, most of the site work detail is already covered in the animal control drawings, and the EMA is more focused on the building because we had already been looking at the site holistically before we, you know, added EMA into the mix. So I know there was a meeting already, just kind of a kickoff meeting with your construction manager to kind of go over the project and that kind of thing. And I think that, you know, there's potential for them if they decided to, you know, bid it out in packages to get something going. I mean, there's options there. They certainly can work through it. I think they just started getting the stuff, so they're, I think, just, you know, getting immersed in the project a little bit to kind of figure out the bidding strategy and all that. But I think the permitting is moving forward. Site permitting was submitted a while back. We've got IEPA permitting that, you know, we're about maybe a month in on, give or take, in the review period. Sometimes that can take 90 days, but, you know, I think we're pushing to just try to move all those things along. And then I didn't tell you guys, but I have something for you to sign for your own land use permit today. But so easy, but yeah, it's you know, it's moving along with the permitting, and I think there's a lot of, you know, good content there to start working bid strategy and all that to get the project ready for construction.
Great. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, final thing, little business, we have an update from the Health Department, Team Kluber. The Health Department.
Hi there, Mike Elliott representing Kluber today. We'll follow the brief schedule. Load around there. We're excited we completed the schematic design phase of the project and then passed that along to Leopardo to begin to develop the initial cost estimate piece, which has been done very well, I think, collaborative between our teams as far as to use that information. So that's currently being reviewed right now. And in the meantime, ourselves, we're pushing through our design development phase to keep the project moving forward toward anticipated schedule. So, if anyone else has anything else to add.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Any questions? No.
Just one other thing, we are working with
our low voltage designer that'll be separate from Kluber, David Noel. He would work on the public safety complex and bring them on with from the electrical. So we had our initial meeting yesterday on that with the end users. So
Do we have any update on the generator?
the generator at the site, yes, you determined that it could be utilized for the project as well as still take care of some of
Even at the length of the entry point where the building's at? I know that was right. That's good news. That's great. No, I've seen it. I'm flying out of O'Hare, I see that thing.
We want to thank whoever approved it and got that thing built way before.
I don't really have much to add, just to remind the group, Nicole McElroy with Leopardo. We will be issued bid package 1, the site improvements from Kluber on 9/21, so that'll be our first bid package, and we're going to start to begin working with Rita and Joel on community outreach and doing any pre-bid to make sure that we give everyone ample time when we're reaching out to the community, so that'll be Leopardo's next step.
Very good. Any other questions? Sue, you have anything?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, first item under the business, we have a presentation from Greg Ruddy from the city of Joliet. Greg, come on up. We're doing Jim Trisback.
Yeah, Jim is unavailable today, so I'm sitting in for him. I don't have a presentation, but I can provide a couple brief updates on some downtown projects that may be of interest. The first is the storm sewer project, which is coming up Desplain Street, turning on Lafayette, Washington, and then eventually over to what will be the newly reopened Chicago Street. That project is moving very slowly. They're breaking about 15 feet of rock to install that storm sewer, so they're getting about 8 feet of pipe in a day. So it's moving very, very slowly, unfortunately.
So what does that do for the end project? They push it back?
I don't know. They're exploring some alternative methods right now for installation, so we'll see where that goes. But it's moving very, very slowly. Yeah, it was the same rock you were breaking for the courthouse.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's tough rock. The other project is the Chicago Street reopening project. We've been working with the county. That includes sort of the reconfiguration of the parking lots directly to the east of the old courthouse. That is currently on schedule to go out to bid and have a letting in February or March of next year, and then spring construction. So
has there been any change to the layout? I know some of the county board members had some questions regarding some of the turn lanes, you know.
We've slightly modified the entrances, or I think based on some feedback we got from the county. City staff has been working with Nick Palmer and Dave Tack on some of these issues. We met a week or two ago to work on some of these things. So we think we've addressed some of those.
That'd be nice if we could get an updated copy of it just for the board.
We are getting closer on that. We've got pretty final plans that we're reviewing right now, so that is moving along well.
Okay.
So those are the 2 items I have. I can certainly answer any other questions if you might have.
Does anybody have any questions regarding those 2 projects?
Just since we're on this topic, we talked about before the committee that this is, the City of Joliet is planning to do this all in one phase. So it'll all be done, shut down, move as quick as possible, get that done. And then the other issue we talked about is we're going to run conduit and power to a few sites on the site so that we can put it. We have the option of putting in security cameras hardwired if we want to, because it's cheaper to do it now than to do it after the fact. So that's going to be part of that bid.
Great. Any questions? Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We've already had the discussion of solar panels. The next thing on the agenda, I'm going to ask that we pull. It was a discussion for space needs. After discussing with a couple of principals, the information is not fully ready yet. Maybe at the next meeting or potential future meetings, we'll have the information that we needed to share with the committee on space needs. Next on the agenda is authorizing payment to Geocon Professional Services for the Will County Public Safety Complex. Moved in second, any discussion? All in favor signify by voice vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is authorizing payment to Farnsworth Group for the Will County Courthouse.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is authorizing payment to White and Company for the Will County Courthouse.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, authorizing payment to Gilbane Company for the Will County Courthouse.
Moved.
Moved in second, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, authorizing payment to ComEd for the courthouse.
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, authorizing payment to Midwest Environmental Consulting Service for the Will County Health Department.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, authorizing payment to White and Company for the Will County Animal Control Facility. Moved in second, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, authorizing payment to White and Company for the Will County EMA Facility. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is no other new business. There's no need, or is there a public comment? Anybody have any public comment? Hearing none. I do not have any other reports or announcements. There is no need for an executive session. Our next meeting will be September 4th. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved in second, all in favor signify by aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. 11:35.